All right, what I'm going to do, I'm going to switch over real quick to Outlook. And this is the email you should have gotten. And if you didn't get it, I apologize. I know we sent it out to about 8 or so people. I saw the email come through myself. So if you didn't, just get with me after this training, and we can make sure to get you this set up. This username and password. And actually, if you've used ESDA before, you'll probably have that same username and password. But if not, we'll get you set up so that you can, after this training, you can kind of go back and use this storm that we've set up for y'all to kind of test in and to get familiar with the app before the next storm. But real quick, in reference to this email, before every storm, what happens is probably one of your bosses sends over us an email to us saying, here's a list of all the people that are going to be involved in the storm. And we plug all those names in, and we send out one of these emails. So you should get one of these prior to every storm that you help us with. In this email, we'll typically kind of put some information that's helpful. We've revised what a lot of this says. So a lot of this information here is going to be kind of updated. In this case here, you'll see, and I'm going to try to use my mouse here on the screen. You should be able to see this red stuff here. Often we'll kind of put some stuff there for you to kind of keep note of, because I know a lot of people get these emails and don't even read through them. So, but this one here mentioned that in 2021, December of 2021, we released a new enhanced version of ESDA. And so that's kind of important. So kind of keep your eye out for those in future emails moving forward. If we have any kind of update for y'all, we'll make sure to include that in this email. I do want to bring point to that. Everyone who received this email, did y'all actually go and download the latest version with this link on here? Is anyone, hopefully y'all were able to do that.
Yes, sir.
And the reason okay.
Yeah.
All right. The reason I say that, we have actually released a brand new version of ESDA, and so it's going to be a completely separate app. So that old version of ESDA that you had, and I would recommend y'all passing this along to the other employees of OSR. The old application that you were using is no longer valid. We've updated it with some new features, and to be able to see all those and to access all of those, you'll need this new version of the app. So make sure the first thing that you do is click on this blue link right here, and go download the latest version of the application. So I'm going to go through and show you all how to do that real quick. So if you get this email, you click on this blue link. It's going to take you to this site right here, and if you've already done this, you're already familiar. Depending on what device you're going to use, and we do highly recommend using a large screen mobile device. I know some people like to use their phones because that's what they have available, but I would highly recommend that you would use a large screen, so an iPad or something like that. Now, I think a lot of y'all already have iPads. So on the screen here, like I said, that email gave you a link. If you click on that link, and feel free to do that every time you get the email, even if you were just on a storm with us a month ago. It's no problem, because what it's going to do, it'll take you to this page. And then for those who are on iPads, which I assume most of you are, there's this ESDA iOS for iPhones and iPads. So if you'll click on this download link, even if you already have it, what it's going to do, it's going to take you to the Apple App Store. And what you'll notice here, for mine it says open because I already have it downloaded. If you have it downloaded and we've released a new update of whatever kind of new version, it'll show update right here, and you can go ahead and update it there as well. So regardless of if you already have it, we'll make sure that you get the latest version of it, as long as you have the most recent link that we just sent out. So, and I'm going to click on open here, and it's going to take me right to the application. And this is our login screen for those who aren't familiar, who've never used it before. The first thing you'll notice in the bottom left-hand corner, and if you have it on your device right now, you can check to make sure that you have this version right here, product version 1.1.56. That's our most recent version that we have for iOS devices for iPads. So I want to make sure that everyone's kind of up to date with that. So this is our login screen. The first thing you're going to do, and I'm going to hop back to that email on my screen here. So here's that email, and you'll notice in that email, it gave you a username right here, and it gave you a password, okay? So that's going to be the information that you're going to use for that storm. So make sure you always refer to that email for that username and password. For whatever reason, if we change your username, we want to make sure that you're using the most recent one that we have in our system. So always use that version of that username. So I'm going to switch back to the ESDA application. We're back in the ESDA application, and I'm going to go ahead and you would type in that number. So mine it showed NA Sherman -SSE. All right. And then that password that they gave me, I would type in right here. All right. And one very important note, and make sure that everyone in your group that especially hasn't used it before knows this. And this employee toggle needs to be off. Okay. So normally it might go ahead and have that green, which would mean that that you would be an employee. So you want to make sure to toggle that off by clicking on it, and it'll be grayed out like that. And that make sure that you're signing in as a external resource instead of an employee. Okay. All right. The next thing you do, you would click this login button to log in. All right. But I'm going to switch over real quick and you don't have to do this on your screen. I'm actually going to use our training version, our testing version of the application so that y'all can see everything that happens. All right. So this is actually what we call a patrol list. What's going to happen whenever you hit login on your last screen, it'll open up a screen like this. If yours is blank, that's fine. That means you have no incidents assigned to you. And that's the way we typically expect it to be. Once you get an assignment from a dispatcher back from Alabama Power side, and actually let me make a quick reference to this. Everything I'm showing you in here is primarily for Alabama Power. Things might work slightly different for Mississippi Power or Georgia Power, even though we use the same application. But this is going to be the main process that you'll use, especially when you're at Alabama Power. Okay. So what you're going to do, you're going to get one of these incidents in your list. You might have one, you might have two, depending on how many they've assigned to you. First thing you're going to notice here is that it's going to say APC IP right there across the front, and that means APC Incident Patrol. We have two different kinds of feeder assignments that you can get. You can get an Incident Patrol, or what you get down below it is a Feeder Patrol. We're going to focus mostly on Incident Patrol because what Incident Patrols are actually incidents that were sent to our system. Either a customer called in or one of our meters reported out, and it cues an incident in our system telling us that something needs to go, somebody needs to look at this and figure out what's going on. So in your list, you'll get an APC IP during a storm. The next information that you're going to get on this line here is the substation name, which is Leeds 12 kV. And then you're going to get the feeder number, 264136. That's our substation and feeder number, okay? After that, you're going to get your device of record. What this device of record is the device that you're responsible for looking at and writing out during a storm. So if the dispatcher calls you and tells you, I've sent you an incident and device to write out, you can kind of confirm with them that device number, which is right there. And you'll make sure that whenever you go out to the site, you're looking at that device and everything up under it, okay? All right, next thing on this line is our storm name. In this case, this is just one of our test storms that we have created. When y'all do testing on your side, there's going to be a contractor test storm that we've given y'all access to that you'll use for your testing as well. But during an actual storm event, it'll have that storm name. Like the last one, we had a winter storm Landon, for example. So you'll have whatever that storm name is will be right behind it to make sure you're evaluating on the correct storm. And this last little piece of information is right here is your current distance from the location you're at right now to that device. So in this case, it shows me 3.6 miles away from this particular device. And this one actually is right around the corner from my house. So that's the reason it shows it so close. All right, here's a important piece, and y'all might already be familiar with all of that. So from this point on, this is very important to kind of follow along. We have something new, and that is called user statuses. And I'm not sure if y'all have worked on a system before where y'all have had to update these. This information kind of gives us, the people who are in the office, just a quick glimpse into where you're at and your current status in evaluating and patrolling that job. Default status when it comes into your patrol list is going to be dispatched. All right, so you'll notice all these are in the dispatch state. Dispatched right here. If you were to click on this, it's going to pop up this window, and it's going to allow you to change your status. All right, so the statuses that we have available to turn is en route and on site. All right, as we go through this job, what I'm going to do is kind of evaluate this job as you may in a storm, and I will show you how and when to click through each one of these statuses, okay? And one more thing to note, as you're doing your training for the other OSR employees, since these are only available for incident patrols and y'all won't have incident patrols to test on, you won't see these user statuses. But what I've done, we've put together a couple documents for you to refer to. And we've also put together a training video we're going to try to get to you as well that discusses these user statuses, okay? They're pretty simple, but we want to make sure that you have everything you need. In that email that we sent out, there is what we refer to as a quick reference guide right here on the screen. If y'all look at that, if you click on the quick reference guide, you'll notice that screen kind of looks familiar in the background with all those incidents. And then here's that box that we referred to. And this walks you through what each one of those statuses represent. All right. So I would recommend hanging on to that. And during the storm, if you forget what those mean or when you're supposed to click on each one of those, feel free to refer to this document. It'll tell you dispatch, for example, default incident status, en route, select prior to driving to job site, and et cetera. So you'll kind of refer to that one during your storm if you ever have any kind of questions on how to use this. So make sure that all the other people who are doing this training has reference to this so they can kind of see that as well. And then also, we have a contractor tutorial, all right? If you ever want to get refreshed on how to use ESDA prior to a storm, we send this out in that email. If you were to click on that one, it's a pretty lengthy document, but if you have any kind of questions, you can kind of come down here and you say, hey, I forgot how to log in. You click on this little login right there, and it'll take you right down to the section that tells you how to log in, what you're supposed to toggle in there, and how you're supposed to work through that. How these patrol list assignments, which I was just discussing, how those look in your patrol list, and then we have a whole process of how you would start out with dispatch, go in route, start doing your heading to the job site, doing your evaluation and all that. So feel free, even after this call, if you want to read through this document, if you're looking for something to put you to sleep, this is a good document to read. So feel free to read through one of these and get familiar with our application. All right. What I'm about to do is actually go through an actual patrol like y'all would during a storm. So before I start that, are any questions on what we've covered so far? All right, so let me go through. So say you get this incident in your patrol list. So the dispatcher has called you and said, hey, we gave you an incident. Go ahead and ride that one out. So first thing that you can do before you head to the job site is you can click on the line here by tapping on it. All right, and then it'll center your map and put a green halo around the device that you're expected to take a look at, okay? I would recommend go ahead and clicking on that before you actually even head out to the job site so you can kind of get familiar with what's going to be around, what may be out there. And let me kind of give you a quick overview of what you're seeing on the screen here. These green lines, all right, green indicates any kind of overhead primary or secondary. So if you see green in color, you know it's the normal state of a overhead primary or secondary. This kind of brown color, this tannish brown color you see on the screen represents underground. So anything in our system that's underground is going to show up with that color. And if it's damaged, it'll change to a red in color. All right, and I'll actually damage one a little bit so y'all can see what that looks like. It'll turn to red in color. Just some other icons you're seeing on the screen. This is our switch symbol, and we have a switch number typically down below it with the amps of that switch. We have this is our underground transformer symbol right here. This dash line, if you see dash, it means secondary or service. So if you can kind of see, I'll try to zoom in a little bit, that little dash line right there. All right, the secondary or service. Any of our poles, so if you want to look here, this is a normal distribution pole. This one happens to be in a transmission right away. So this T symbol shows transmission pole. You're not expected to evaluate any kind of transmission, but this is just this is also on the map just to kind of let you know once you see those poles out there in the field. Okay. And one other thing that we have added that you may find helpful. All right. These are called I think they're referred to as safety areas. So So we have coded areas where we have been given information that there's a customer that could be a potential threat of some type. So if we've had run-ins with them in the past, whether they may have a dog on the property or if they've actually threatened someone, we'll go ahead and mark that on the map in our system. Okay. We try to keep that information up to date. Some of this information could be a little dated, so it's not always going to be something that happened yesterday. So kind of keep that in mind. But so again, I'm going to click on this safety parcel. If you see on this outline, this is actually the parcel area of that property. In this case, sometimes it's not always bad information. Sometimes it's good, helpful information. So if you were to click on this one, for example, the customer has provided us with a gate code. And so sometimes that information is in there and may be helpful. It could be, again, that could be some dated information and may not help at all. But we went ahead and put all that information in there, and that way you have it. And so before you head to this job site, you might want to just click on that parcel and see what that information says. If it says bad dog, just kind of be familiar with that. In this case also, you'll notice that it's yellow in color. Yellow means that there's various comments, but it's not considered a security threat. Okay. If we were to have a case where there was a security threat, this would be red in color and it would stick out. So, in the cases that you have one that is red, it's a security threat. I think we only have about 130 across the state, so it's rare that you're going to come across one. I would recommend just making sure you have someone with you. And then if you wanted to kind of just give a heads up to whoever your supervisor is, or just to kind of let them know so that they can kind of keep in check with you before you head to the job site. Just to know that in the past we may have had some kind of issue with that particular customer, and we like to just kind of keep that tagged so that you can see that. You'll see these now. These are all new. So since the last time you've used it, you probably wouldn't have ran into any of those, but you're going to see them on the map. And so just kind of be familiar. They're not always pertinent information, but just know that they're there. Okay. All right. So one thing we can't do, if y'all remember, we haven't changed our user status yet. So we're still in the dispatch status. When you're in that dispatch status, these reporting tools that you used before, they're disabled. All right. We don't want you to start doing any kind of updating of any of the damage out there until you've actually marked yourself on site. Okay. So kind of keep that in mind. So what we want to do in this case, we want to go ahead and get directions possibly out there to the job site. First thing before we head there, let's go ahead and change our status to en route to let them know that we're about to head there. So if you click on this jobs button and this patrol, this is our tool palette, is what we call it. Click on this jobs icon. It'll take us back to your patrol list. And next to that incident that we were just evaluating, you click on dispatched and then en route. Okay, that means you're about to head to the job site. So let's go ahead and click en route, and you'll notice over here it's been updated. Okay, now we want to get directions to that job site. So let's click back on your incident. So if you tap back on your incident right there, again, it's going to center you on that location. Feel free to go ahead and click on that device because that's what you're going to go patrol. And then click on it again so that it knows you're talking about that fuse. And then you'll use this button over here called navigate. All right. If you have an iPad, it's going to give you two options, which is Google Maps or Apple Maps, whatever one you prefer. In this case, I'll click Apple Maps. And there you go. It's going to go ahead and route me to it. All right. I can hit go over here, and then it'll start giving me directions how to get there. Okay. If you're on an iPad, just a quick little tip here over in the top left-hand corner, it'll take you, if you click that button that says ESDA, it'll take you right back to the ESDA app. So you don't even have to change anywhere else. So I'm going to click ESDA, and there we go. I'm right back on my ESDA application. So say I've routed, I've driven all the way over there to the job site. I've gotten there. Now the next step I need to do is to change my status again because we're on the job site, okay? So let's go back. If you remember, if we selected this jobs icon, it's going to take us back to our patrol list. And over here again, we're going to change this status. If I click on en route, now I have the status of on site that I can check. If for whatever reason you've selected it by mistake, you can always change back and go back into dispatch mode. But in this case, we're on site, so we're going to select on site. Okay. So now we are on site, if you notice over here. And now if I were to select that job again, all of my tools are available to you. So nothing's grayed out or disabled. You're able to do whatever you need to do. All right. So in this case, we've driven out there and we've noticed that for whatever reason, this fuse is open. Something caused it to open. So what we're going to do is we're going to tap on that fuse. Okay, gives us a couple options here. I'm going to select fuse here. We looked at, this is our little list. So I can select fuse. All right, and the first thing I want to do is use our what we call a reporting tool. Okay, this is how you report on any asset that's damaged or the state different than what is normal. So we're going to go ahead and hit report. And as I mentioned, we noticed that fuse was in the open position. So let's go ahead and update that status. So I'm going to click status here. You'll notice in the bottom, this little pop-up comes in here and allows us to change the status. In this case, we mentioned that it was open, so I'm going to select open. All right. And now I can kind of click back in this box, and I'm going to select done. If you'll notice now, anything that's marked, as I mentioned earlier, if it's damaged or in a different state other than what's normal, it will change to red in color. So in this case, because that was marked as damaged, which is an open position, it is now red. Okay. Some other things that you can kind of, in this tool palette that I'll make you aware of is an info tool. So if you're wanting to get some information on any asset that's out there, we have some of that displayed. For example, right here, you'll see the transformer number and the transformer KVA and what phase it's on. Okay. But if you need some more information, say, for example, on this pole that's right here, I can select the pole. Okay. And then I can hit this info tool right here. And I'm going to get some more information on the height and class. I'm going to get the location number. This is how we identify each one of our poles. They have a unique location number. And so for whatever reason, the dispatcher is asking you what the pole number is, you can kind of get that information. If it's not on the pole, you might be able to find it on this map using this info tool over here, okay? You can do that for any asset, even for this wire right here. If I hit the info tool, I can kind of get some more information. There's a span length right there, and then that's the wire size. This is underground conductor. Okay. All right. So something else that we have out here. So say we ride this out, and this is kind of maybe not the best case because this is underground, but we might see that this transformer, for example, is get knocked off the pad or something like that. So one thing that we can do, we can click and select that transformer, and then let's look at this list here. We don't want to click on that safety polygon. We're looking at this transformer, so let's select transformer. And then I can select report. All right, in this case, we said that was damaged for whatever reason. I guess a tornado went through there and ripped this off the pad and laid over on its side, okay? We can select offline, damaged, and then if we start to see oil leaking out of it, we want to go ahead and mark oil spill. This is going to give an indicator to our dispatchers to let them know that we need to get somebody out there to clean up an oil spill, okay? Especially if it's near a piece of water or anything like that. We'll want to go ahead and mark that up. I do notice there's a question, so I'm going to go ahead and pause.
Yeah, when you're online, I've noticed you got your camera icon and your photo gallery icon. Will it attach to that file, or do you have to do something different when you attach it?
Yes, great question. So we do have these different options up here. So the first option is camera. If you do that one, what it's actually going to do, and I will do it in this case. If I select camera, it's going to give me my camera. Y'all looking at my keyboard right there, okay? And so I can take a picture. All right, and then I can use photo, and it's going to attach it. So if you'll see up here, it attached a photo to this incident. So whoever opens this up later is able to see that photo that you've added in there. This button right here is a photo library. So if you've already taken a photo before and you want to add a picture to it later, if you click this button here, it's going to pull up your photo library on your device, and you can attach a photo like that. It's never a bad idea to go ahead and take a photo when you're out there, something that you feel like is going to be helpful especially, you know, a lot of our line crews get this information that have to come out here to do the repair. So if there would be a photo that would be helpful for them, go ahead and attach a photo and use that photo button right there, take a photo, and it'll automatically attach it. As long as it's up here, you know, whenever you hit next or done, that means it's been attached. Okay. Later, what's going to happen, this right here will turn blue. This little cloud that you see right here, it will turn blue, meaning that's been saved to the cloud. So what's going to happen if I were to go out there after you've already evaluated, that button right there would be blue for me. If I were to click on it, it would load that photo for me, and I could click on that photo and see what that was. Okay. So yes, those are helpful tools that you may use. Let me go ahead real quick. This is our damage assessment box. These information here, these little toggles that you see through here, are specific depending on what type of device. And I'm sure you're already familiar because I know a lot of y'all have used ESZA before. But these are specific. So this is a transformer. So we have preloaded these questions in here. If there's something on here that you don't see, you can always add a note down here. That would be helpful. For in this case, if I were to say, I might want to note, we talked about this one having an oil spill, and maybe there's a creek that ran beside it. So I'll put oil spill near creek. Okay. All right. So that's going to save that information in there now. So the people in the office or whoever comes out there next is able to see that information. They'll know that oil spill's near water. We'll need to go ahead and get that cleaned up soon before we, causes big issues. Okay. Let me and explain what these are. We're not going to select these, but inaccessible would mean that we cannot get one of our bucket trucks or derrick trucks out there to it. That would be the case for inaccessible. And then LOLs are our local operating linemen. For those who aren't familiar, they typically do service work, typically overhead service work. They're not usually putting up primary and repairing poles. They just got the small buckets, and they kind of work by themselves. So we do have cases though, if you went to a job site and there was only a service down, and that someone from a small bucket kind of picked that one back up, or a ladder and go ahead and reconnect a service knob or something, and there's no other damage. In that case, you might want to select need LOL. Okay, but we have that available for those cases. Also, a case maybe where a transformer, there's no damage out there, and all there is the transformer fuse is blown. There's no damage downstream of it. An LOL can refuse and close that device back in. So that's when you would use that one. It's not going to be common that you use it, but it will be used from time to time. All right, now if I select done, you'll notice that my transformer changed to red in color, meaning it's damaged. I have an oil spill icon right there beside it, and that shows that there's been an oil spill. All right, that saves on the map. So even if I zoom out a little bit, I can see that pretty clearly that I have a transformer with an oil spill. Okay. All right. So that's the case there. And one other thing, we won't have to use it right now, and I can possibly use it on another example later. We have this thing called a Lasso Tool. So if you'll notice earlier, I was selecting the fuse and I hit report. I selected the transformer, I hit report. If I wanted to select this entire line and do it all at once, we have something called a Lasso Tool. If you select Lasso over here on the left in the tool palette, I can click on my screen. You'll see that yellow line is kind of following where I'm dragging my finger, and I can drag my finger all the way around. And once I release my finger, it will turn all of these assets to green. Okay. Now, if I were to hit report, what that's going to do, it's going to start working from item to item. So if I start marking stuff as damaged, I hit next, it'll move to this primary. I can mark that one up as damaged. I hit next, and then it moves to my transformer that I just filled out. And then I could go to the next one if I hit next, and then now it's highlighting my service. And so each time I report on one of these, it just moves automatically for you. It's a quick way. If you go out to where, you see 3 or 4, spans of primary down, instead of doing them all individually, you can use that Lasso Tool. It makes things much quicker. So that is just another option that you can use when you're doing your reporting. I will recommend, though, as we mentioned earlier, use a large screen so that you can see the screen. If you're using an iPhone or a small device, this little window will cover up the majority of your screen, and you won't know what you're selecting on. So I would recommend only using that Lasso Tool if you're on an iPad screen or something large like that, a tablet. So yes, let me demo that Lasso tool one more time. So earlier I was saying if you click on a device, right, and then you hit report, it'll let you report on that single device. But if you wanted to report, for example, on everything downline of this one, so all of this down here is damaged, I select Lasso tool. I click and I draw a circle around everything that needs to be reported on. It'll highlight it for me, showing that, hey, these are what you're going to report on, each one of these assets in that circle. And then I select that report tool again, and what it's going to do, it'll start bouncing from each one. And so say I have this pole, this transmission pole. I don't need to report on it for whatever reason. It's fine, but it was inside of my circle. If you just hit next, it'll skip over it without reporting on it. So if you have a long span and not everything on it damaged, if you want to mark it up and click on it and mark up whatever that is, you can mark on it. But if not, you can hit next, and it'll just skip to the next one without reporting on it. So that's the case. So say I've written this out and I've shown everything here that fuse is open, that transformer blew off the pad. I got a photo with it, and that service wire was damaged as well. I reported on it. So let's go back here. What I want to do next is select this jobs icon again to go back to my patrol list. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to select that on-site status over here beside it, and I need to mark it as complete. Okay, so complete is my next option. I'll discuss no trouble found in a little bit, so let's just stick with this one. I select complete. It's going to say, are you sure you want to complete this assignment and send to IDMS? IDMS is our outage management system. So what that's going to do, whenever you hit send, it's going to hit, or hit yes in this case, it's going to automatically send all of that information over to our dispatchers, and they're going to get it automatically loaded over to their outage management system, so that they can get a crew assigned to it. So I hit yes. There we go. Now my status is complete, and you'll notice within about 15 minutes or so, if you were ever to load your screen, what it's going to do, it'll actually automatically remove that from your list. So you don't have to keep managing your list. It should pull it from your list. What happens, it unassigns you from the incident once you hit complete, and then eventually it'll take it off your list, okay? And so in that case, we have complete. All right. So we have done our assignment, and we've hit complete, and that's all we need to do. And so we've gone, and we're ready for the next assignment that we're ready to go look at. So that, in a nutshell, is our kind of evaluation process. It's pretty simple. I hope you see it as simple. But what I can do here is kind of go through another example if y'all would find that helpful. Also, there's a couple of the tools that we have available that I haven't got to demonstrate. I'd like to kind of show some of those as well. So let me go over one more example. So here's an example right here. This is another incident that was in our list for a transformer. So in the same process as well, I want to go ahead and change myself in route. Go ahead and mark myself in route on this case, and I can select it, and it highlights this transformer. Now I'm able to kind of look and see what's around it before I head to the job site to give me an overview of what I'm going to get into out there. I can select that transformer. There you go. We have a list transformer. I'm going to select, and then I'm going to hit over here on the side over here. I'm going to select navigate again. All right, Apple Maps, give me some directions. There we go. I'm going to hit go, direct myself out there. I drive to the job site again. I'm going to select back up top, or you can just switch to the app, however is easiest for you. I get up to the job site, and I look around, and there's nothing there, okay? I know y'all have had those situations. Y'all go and you look out, and you check each one of these. We got 5 services. Actually, we got maybe even more. 5 services off of this. All the transformers closed in. All of the services are on. You've looked and verified all the meters are running on each case. No customers out there has any issues. Those happen from time to time. You'll have a customer call, and for some reason their account didn't get linked to the right ticket that was already repaired. So they might have had an outage, but it never got linked up. So in those cases, there's nothing to report, right? I'm sure y'all have had those cases. We've added a new selection for those. So instead of using complete, what I'll show you again, go to the hit jobs again. I can change en route on that same one. on site when I got there. And then one more thing I can do now is, instead of complete, if y'all remember earlier, we used complete to send over to IDMS, if y'all remember that, with all of our damage. And then you'll use this a majority of the time, okay? But one option we've given down here now is no trouble found. This is not to be used if you can't find the trouble, all right? This is only to be used if there is no trouble, in the cases where it might be a customer might have said there was a power line down and it's really just a cable line, okay? I know y'all had that before. So in that case, there's no trouble found. So let's select no trouble found. It'll give you a pop-up. It'll say, are you sure you want to report no trouble found for this assignment? Just to make sure you selected the right thing. You can always hit no and back out if you click it by mistake. In this case, we're going to click yes. It's going to ask you one more thing. It says, are all customers verified on? So in those cases, we're just ensuring that you've selected it and that you've gone through and checked each one of the meters and made sure all the meters are back on. All right, in those cases, you would hit yes. All right, now it's changed your status there to no trouble found. What that does, that sends a note back to our dispatchers, and it'll automatically populate this little note that says no trouble found, all meters on, and then pending clear. What that means is they can go ahead and clear that ticket out. All right, that just saves you a little bit of a hassle from having to write up a separate email saying there's nothing on out here and trying to explain the situation. That no trouble found will take care of that for you, okay? And so no trouble found is something new. So be familiar with that. We've also had one more thing. If say your list has not updated and cleared this one out yet, what you can do to clean your list up, you can always select this complete option. Where's it at? Actually, so if you'll notice that one we used earlier is not on the list anymore, because what happens once I mentioned earlier, once you hit complete, it should take it off of your list. So in that case, earlier, that one for leads is no longer on here. So it did what it was supposed to do. However, if it doesn't take it off your list automatically, you can always click back on it. And now this option in here for delete is available. And you can hit delete, and that's going to, are you sure? You select yes. And if you watch, that one disappears. There we go. It's gone. All right. So it's off your list. You don't need to use that one unless it's for some reason stuck on your list. 15 minutes later and it's still on your list and you've already completed it. You can always use that delete button to clean your list up. That way you're only looking at stuff you have to look at. All right, so, and I'm going to click on this incident right here just to kind of give you, there's a couple more tools I haven't mentioned yet. I do want to make note of. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and just switch right to on-site so I can start evaluating it. All right. So a couple tools over here in the toolpath that I hadn't made mention of. Let me move it so you can see it. All right. So we've gone through some of these tools. Search tool. Let me go ahead and click and show you what this is. If I need to look for a pole in particular or something in particular, I can click search, and then I can start clicking in this box here. It looks for anything on the feeder. If we have a transformer number, here we go. I'm looking for this transformer in particular. If I were to select it, there you go. It'll center my map on whatever that device was. Okay. If somebody's out somewhere and they're telling you, hey, meet me over here at transformer 176, you can search for it and look for it like that. Okay. It's pretty simple tool you can use. One other thing you can do at this top, if you were to select this blue line up top that has your incident assignment on it, what it's going to do, if you watch, it'll center my map back on that device. So if you ever get lost or you move your screen too far, click on that line, and I can click back here to that device number or job start, one or the other, and there we go. It centered me back on that particular device that I'm supposed to be evaluating. So that's a really cool feature, because I know we've all gotten to where we kind of searched around the map and we've forgotten, oh man, where was I supposed to be at? So click that top button, job start, and there you go. It centers you right back on it. All right, some more tools we have. We have a note tool. All right. You saw earlier there was always a comment box where you could type on a specific asset. We want you to continue to use that box if it's for an actual asset. So if you're writing a note for a particular pole, for a particular transformer, use that comment box with the reporting tool. However, if there is a note, for example, access from rear lot, or customer gives you a gate code, or something like that that's not tied to a particular asset in the field, you'll use this note tool. So what you do, you select note. I can click on my screen where I want to add the note. So say there was a gate right here, I could type a note in, locked gate. Okay. I can add a photo. I mentioned earlier, same thing for note tools. You can always add a photo for a note tool, and then you can hit save. And that leaves a little note on the screen. So anybody using this application can always see that note, click on it later, and then they can see exactly what you're referred to with that note. Okay. So that's our note tool. We've added this debris tool. Has anyone here done any kind of post-storm feeder sweep? Are y'all familiar with that? Has anyone done that before? I know we've used external resources for that before.
Yes, I have.
Okay. All right. So one thing I think they probably had y'all note in the field is when you come across locations where there's pole debris. So we've done all of the repairs, but we left all the pole debris and transformer at the base of the pole. So typically we'll have those who are doing post-storm feeder sweeps to mark those locations. We haven't had a quick way to do that before. What we've added in there is this debris tool. Okay, this is to be used if there's any kind of pole debris left at the base of a pole that needs to be cleaned up after the storm. And typically you'll only use this during those feeder sweeps. You may use it during a storm, but it's rare. But in this case, so you did a feeder sweep, you can click on debris. It works just like that note tool. You just click on the screen, add in pole debris, and you might even want to add, in this case, an address, 2134, Test Street. All right. Sam Test Street. All right. And that way they know where that pole debris is and hit save. And it leaves a little debris icon. So it's a lot simpler. And what it does, it filters all that, filters that down so that we won't even want to look at, for example, pole debris and send a contract crew out to clean up the pole debris. We have these little icons all across our map and we know exactly where to go. So use that pole debris on those feeder sweeps and help our contract crews know where to go. We have something called a summary tool. You probably won't use this one very much. This is more intended for our line crews. But what happens for this one? Let me report on a few. I'm going to mark all these as damaged real quick and let y'all see what these are. Give me 1 second. I'm going to mark these as damaged. Okay. So now what I can do, so I've marked all that as damaged. If a line crew saw this and they want to know what kind of material they need to bring with them, they can use the summary tool. If you click summary and draw a circle around, kind of like I did with that lasso, around it, it's going to pop up a list now. There we go. Broken pole, damaged primary, damaged transformer, damaged secondary. So now they can tell that to their warehouse and give them this list of material to bring with them to the job site. Okay. Y'all won't use that as much, but I wanted to make you familiar with it in case you, for whatever reason, need to use it. Okay. All right. And keep going down this list. We talked about the info tool. As I mentioned earlier, you can click on an asset and hit info to get more information on it. One other thing you may find really helpful, especially on those feeder sweeps, if you're riding out this line, you're not going to get very lost because it's only one tap, right? But if you had to ride out this entire feeder, it's easy to get lost or forget, hey, did I ride down this road right here? One thing you could use is this follow tool, okay? And this follow tool will center the map on your location, and it's going to move your screen as you ride out the line. And what it's going to do, it'll leave a yellow highlighter right behind where you've been. And so say you've ridden out this line, it'll highlight all of this as you ride along. I can't demonstrate that right now because I'm not able to actually ride out this line. But you guys can kind of, test that out whenever you're out in the field on your next storm. Use that follow tool and it'll mark the map. And that's no different than, I know in the mini storms y'all probably done in the past where you probably use a highlighter and highlight the lines that you've ridden out. So that basically just does it for you. And that can always be activated by clicking on the follow tool. And if you want to turn that function off, just click it again, and then you can keep looking at your map. All right. And it's also always going to leave the screen centered on your location. So if you're riding down the road, it'll center on your location and it'll just slowly kind of move as you drive. So it's a pretty cool function that I think you'll find helpful if you haven't used it before. All right. So those are all the tools. I think I've demonstrated all of those already. Are there any kind of questions on anything we've covered that you want to talk about? All right, let me go ahead and get started. Okay, so everyone who got the email should have gotten should have gotten this, and clicked on that link and downloaded it. Let me make one more quick reference to this quick reference. So in that email, that quick reference document, as I mentioned earlier, it has that patrol list screen, but what it also has is what I just went over. All those tools in the tool palette, we've given a quick write-up on what those do. So if you ever need to refer to any of those before, and again, even these safety parcels, we've kind of talked about red parcels, security threat, the yellow is just various comments, stuff like that. So if you want to print this out on a front and back of your sheet of paper and keep with you, you can do that, or just save that email and it'll have that link in there for you. Okay. When we go through this little test period, you might want to refer to that. So let me kind of open my application back up. Again, here is the ESDA application. I'm gonna go ahead and put my login information here and log in. Okay. In this case, I only have one thing in my patrol list. So let me kind of show you on your screen. If you've gotten to this point, if I need to hold up, let me know. But if not, we're going to go ahead and go from here. Here's the patrol list in the top right-hand corner. Go ahead and hit this plus button. So y'all can see that. All right. So if you hit that plus button in the top right-hand corner, it allows you to assign a feeder. During an actual self-storm, storm, I wouldn't recommend doing this unless the dispatcher asks you to do it this way. Typically, they'll give you the assignment, and it'll load into your list with the device of record. This way, it's going to assign an entire feeder to you to evaluate. Sometimes they'll ask you to do this for a feeder sweep if you've done this before, or if for whatever reason our outage management system is down and you had to evaluate an entire feeder. So in the case of a really, really bad hurricane knocks out half of our system, you may have to go this route. But it's not going to be common. We're going to do it today so that you can do some testing though. So here's what you'll do. You'll click assignment. First thing you'll need to do, go down your list here and select Alabama Power Company Feeder Patrol. It'll give you a little pop-up. Just click OK to that pop-up. All right. Next, you'll hit Storm. If you'll scroll to the bottom of this list down here, you're going to see APC Contractor Training. I want y'all to select that storm. It's really important that you select the correct storm when you're doing this route. So make sure you select APC Contractor Training. All right, this is our test storm set up specifically for y'all. All right, and now under feeder, if you select feeder, it's going to give you a list of all the feeders across our company. It doesn't matter which one you select. Feel free to select any of them. Scroll down your list there. What you can also do is in the top here, hit search. You click on that one, it allows you to start typing in some text. So if I want to type in RO, there you go. It gives me anything with RO, O in it. There you go. Bent Brook, for example. I can select Bent Brook feeder by clicking on it. And now I have my assignment, my storm, my feeder. I can hit assign. Now I'm gonna have to give it a minute, and it'll take a minute on your device as well. Depending on your connectivity, it's having to load in an entire feeder's worth of data. So that can take a few minutes. Okay, so if y'all notice on my screen, I'm gonna keep going on this one. Hopefully y'all have an assignment loaded on your list. It's going to depend on connectivity. I would recommend if you ever go this route, and that makes a good time to talk about this as well. ESDA is set up to where it works online or offline, meaning with cell service, or in cases where it's a bad storm or in a kind of in the middle of the woods somewhere, offline. However, you have to be online for it to receive information and send information. You can go offline if you need to ride out to middle of the woods and take some information. It'll let you use the application. It'll give you everything that you need to do. However, if you need to receive information, for example, loading what I just did, a feeder, or you need to send that feeder information, you need to make sure you go back to an area where you can get cell service. Or Wi-Fi. Okay, kind of keep that in mind to be able to use this application. All right, so in this case, if you'll notice on my screen, I mentioned I was going to download Bent Brook, and then I had my feeder, my storm name, APC Contractor Training, so I can make sure I'm in the right spot. One thing you'll notice on the right over here, you don't see the dispatch user status. When you go this route for APC FPs instead of IP, so these are not incidents, you do not have user statuses. So if you're trying to do your training with your employees later, As I mentioned, one thing you won't be able to demonstrate are the user statuses. Those will only be available during storms. However, we have a 2-minute video we're going to try to get to you that kind of does a quick overview of user statuses. If we can't find a way to get that to you, we do have in those documents, as I mentioned earlier, you can refer to user statuses in those to kind of give a overview of how to use user statuses. So I apologize, we can't do that right now with this method, but since those are only available for actual incidents, we won't be able to test on that. All right, so if you have that incident in your control list, you should be able to click on it. What it's going to do for feeders, it's going to center you on the actual beginning of the feeder, the actual substation. So that little triangle represents our substation, and that little takeoff is kind of our getaway. And then from that point on is the actual feeder that you're going to evaluate. So what I want to do, I'm going to give you a little bit of time now, probably next 10 minutes or so. Feel free to scroll around the map, get familiar with all of that. Go ahead and maybe click on some assets, a primary here, hit report, and start marking on it. If you see anything that we haven't discussed or you have questions on, feel free just to unmute and start talking and asking us a question, okay? I'll turn it over to y'all, let y'all take some time to do some testing. Go ahead, Dave.
I'm seeing some poles that are just a circle, and I'm seeing some that have like a black triangle in the middle of them. Is that a joint use pole, or what's the significance of that?
Yes, great question. Let me find one on my screen, and I'll kind of show people what you're talking about. Give me a second. There we go. All right, so if y'all look at this device, this pole right here, so this would be a standard APCO-owned, Alabama Power-owned pole. So any of the standard poles is just going to be a circle with nothing inside. And what David just mentioned is correct. This pole right here that I'm centered on has a triangle in the middle of it. That is a joint use pole. So that would be a pole owned by AT&T or one of our other communication companies. If you were to select that pole and then use the info button, you can see it says FDIC, means foreign distribution. So any pole that is not Alabama Power owned is going to have that little triangle on it. So that's a great point, David. And let me mention on that too. Let me go back to my substation. I will kind of talk about some of these as well. Some other symbols you may see. A T is a transmission pole. Again, if you're in the field, you'll notice transmission poles, 150 foot tall or whatever versus ours. So we have transmission poles indicated on here. We also have, in the cases here, if you see this circle with a tiny dot in the middle of it, that's going to be our underbuilt poles. So there are cases where we have distribution attached to a transmission pole. So we're on the bottom of the transmission pole. We have those with a different symbol as well. So those are the 4 symbols you may see. We do have in that document, I can kind of refer to it real quick. So in that email, the contractor tutorial, I believe one of the first pages here you go, is a legend. So feel free to refer to this one. And we have a distribution pole, foreign owned, meaning like a joint use pole. And then that would be our transmission pole with underbuilt. So those are our symbols that I just discussed recently. And again, since we've done this, there is a T, which is our only transmission. Those poles you typically won't have to be familiar with, but at least you can kind of see them on the map. So feel free to refer to this legend down the road if you're not familiar with what these symbols are. We have them all indicated in this document, the contractor tutorial document from that email. All right, I realize I just talked for about 2 minutes with my mic on mute, so let me try to go through that one again. We have broken poles and we have leaning poles. We have found different ways to display those to kind of help kind of give a good overview. If I were to zoom out, I want to be able to see which ones are which. So if you'll look on my screen really quick, you'll notice here that this pole over here has an X through it. That indicates that it's broken. This one is just a normal standard red circle pole, and that would be leaning. So just kind of keep note of that as well for symbology's sake. That's the differences we have set up from that one as well.
I have a quick question also. I don't know if this is something you're going to cover a little later in this training, but for instance, if you come up to, say, a pole, the pole is good, but you have a 12-foot cross arm that's broken in half. the primary is hanging off the pole from a cross arm. How do you write that up?
Yeah, great question, Ted. In that case, let's say we have one of these primary poles through here. I'll find one that's not there we go. Let's select this pole right here. All right, look on my map here. And you said, here's the list. I find my pole. I select pole. I hit report. In that case, it is not broken. It is not leaning. So there's nothing actually wrong with the pole. However, you're saying there's a broken cross arm or an insulator or something like that. In those cases, I would recommend going here in your notes section and typing in what you're seeing on that pole. So if it's a pole hardware issue, but the pole's not actually damaged, you can select it for that pole because it is attached to that pole. But then you would just type your notes in here. So broken cross arm in that case, and maybe what size or something so they know to come back out with something similar. And then you can put broken cross arm, maybe if you want to put pole okay. And what that's going to do, if I hit done on that one, you'll notice that my pole turned red, meaning there's some kind of damage in that area, but it won't actually mark that pole as damaged. So if I were to use the summary tool and try to select that pole, there we go. It's going to say no summary in that area because it's not actually showing that pole is damaged. So that would be correct. We would get a note back passed over. The note would actually, come over to our outage management system, but the pole wouldn't actually show as damaged. So that would be what you would do in that case, too.
Very good. Thanks.
One more question. I've come across a span of primary on the ground still hot, spitting like crazy. How would you designate that span of wire emergency? What would be your procedure for that?
Yeah, in that case, I'd call your dispatcher. In those cases where you have a down primary that's actually still hot, go ahead and first thing I would do before you even use ESDA would be go ahead and call your dispatcher and let them know so they can get somebody out there to de-energize that one. And of course, you would stay out there near the line. Typically, that would be up to your dispatcher, but typically they'll have you stay out there to make sure that nobody gets to that hot primary until somebody's out there to open that up for you. But you can also mark that on the map. There's no way to mark it as urgent. That's really if it's urgent, you should be calling the dispatcher that you've been assigned to. But in that case, I'm going to select that primary, and then I can hit report, and then I would just mark it as down. And then in the notes here, you can mark if you wanted to go ahead and put energized or something like that. However, you'll probably stay out there on site and won't keep riding that line out until that one's been taken care of, unless you've been told otherwise. So that's a great point, and I would definitely say you can put it in ESDA, but it's more important that you call someone and let them know. All right, we have the schedule till 11. What I wanted to make sure is that we gave plenty of time for any kind of last minute questions, and especially since most of you will be doing training for the rest of the OSAR employees who weren't able to make the call. Are there any questions as far as doing the training yourself, or any questions about the application that you wanted to go ahead and make mention of?
So would Greg need to contact someone as far as being able to load up the training, or is that something that's going to be available as long as we have a login?
Yes, so we will get a list from Greg. So he sent us over a list of everyone who's going to be on this call today. But we'll go ahead and also get the list of the however many other employees. I think there's about 100 more or so that will need individual training. We'll go ahead and load them in the same way that you all were loaded in. We'll send out an email and give them the same access that you all had to this particular storm. So as long as this storm is active, you'll be able to access the storm within the application and start doing some testing. However, just make sure you emphasize and stress when they're doing the self-assigning method that we showed earlier. Let me go back to make sure y'all are familiar. So this screen here, if they're assigning like this by hitting this plus button, just make sure that they select the correct storm. If that APC contractor training is what they need to select, just to make sure that we're getting all that information in the correct storm. We don't want them applying that to another active storm for confusion's sake. So, that's going to be available for anyone else who needs to do training later on. And we'll go ahead, as soon as we get that list from Greg, we'll go ahead and send that out. And if we want to do that for a certain day, we can wait to send that out if y'all want to do that on a particular day, or if you're wanting to do it over the next couple weeks or so, however long, we'll make sure that storm stays active so you can do that training.
Okay, that'd be fine. Thank you.
Now, as a general rule,
Thanks,
will
Ted.
people's login username stay the same, with it being their first two letters of their first name and then the last name?
Yes, we have moved to a standard format to try to help with that process. It's typically, like you said, first two letters of your first name, last name, dash your company's initials that we've designated. In this case, it's dash OSR. And so that should be the same for the storms moving forward. We might have used a different system early on, but for the past year or so, I think we've been using this. But yes, it should stay the same. And but I would always refer to the email. Like I said, we always send out an email prior to the storm. And so basically we'll reload you in. And if we've ever changed that username, just make sure to refer to that. But yeah, it should be the standard, that same standard format.
Okay.
All right. If there's no more questions or any other issues we need to talk about, that's going to conclude the call. So I'll pause one more time. If anybody else has anything else that y'all want to bring up before we go?
We just appreciate the opportunity to be able to assist you guys. Anytime that we do something like this with the utility, we always view it as a joint venture, and we just appreciate you guys allowing us to be the first ones to externally to do this. And we look forward to working with you.